It's Tuesday, and welcome back to the How to Life podcast. How are you all doing today? I am Dr. Laura Jagged, and I want to thank you for listening to this show. This is episode 58. I often do shows that teach a specific lesson or give specific instruction. I really hope to present information that'll help you or offer a point of view that you hadn't considered before. But I always try to get across that there's no right way to do something. This is your life, and you get to choose how to live it. I just hope to help you live your best life with less stress and fewer mistakes than many my age and older had to go through. But really, there are no mistakes. It's all part of your journey, and great knowledge and wisdom even are always gained. Today, I am speaking with Matt Woicik, who wants to let you know that it is okay to try different things. His own path from architect to computer tech to digital marketing entrepreneur was pretty straightforward with no real deviations. It turned out well, but he would like to encourage his own children and this audience that it's okay to try different things. Take different routes. It won't throw you off a chosen path, and it can even enhance the one that you're on. If you think that you have to be laser focused to reach a level of prestige and comfort, do so if you find it fulfilling. But it's also fun to try out some different things, and it'll still turn out okay. Good morning, Matt. Welcome to the How to Life podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on this show. How are you?
Great, and thank you very much for inviting me.
We have a very good topic, and that is about fear of making the wrong choice and how taking risks is fine. You're going to be fine. Before we start, Matt, will you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yep. My name is Matt Woicik. I'm a digital marketing strategist. I recently, pre-pandemic, started my own business. But before then, I probably did what was the typical one. Went to college right after high school, picked a degree before I showed up, graduated, tried to find a job, got married at the same time, and then have worked in a couple different jobs, probably longer than I should have, one for 7 years and then one for 13. And as I got near midlife, decided, it's time for a change. And I got less time remaining than I have. I got to do what I want to do, and decided to take a leap of faith and start branching on my own. And so far, so good. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, being my own boss. So it's a quick overview of me. But I mean, how do you summarize, almost 50 years of your life? There's nothing quick about that.
You just did it. I can relate. I also had a very straight path that I didn't veer from. It was sort of, I'm not going to say it was picked for me, but it was definitely, I was directed onto it, and I didn't know that I had any other choice. I've spoken with other guests on my show. They had the same situation. And then there are a group of people that were not given a path, and so they feel kind of lost. They have no direction. So everybody's journey is specific to them. And I want to ask you, why did you make the choices that you did? What was the motivating factor to make those choices in your case?
Yeah, in my case, a lot of it wasn't that it wasn't a choice, but it was sort of that one thing just led to another. And you wake up 20 years later and you're like, how'd you get to where you were? So just picked architecture as my undergrad degree because, I didn't want to work construction like my dad. And so I went to college to be an architect. I didn't look around at majors. The program was very specific, so I had to accomplish certain classes. And then you graduate and you're like, I'm going to go be an architect. And, there's a recession. No one's building buildings. You're not going to do that. So made a shift. 2 years later, we decided we got to move to a big city and got a job and worked there for 7. Then I got a master's degree and I'm like, I should go do that. And then that was 13. And I'm like, wow, I just spent 20 years of my life and I didn't really plan it. It just sort of fell into place. Now, having said that, it worked out good, but it just happened. And that's kind of weird looking back because they weren't deliberate choices. They just happened.
Did you ever work as an architect?
No, a strange thing. So when I graduated from college, there was a recession. And so the architecture firms were laying off. And I worked as an intern, but it just wasn't going to go anywhere. Here are architects with 20 years experience getting laid off. They're not going to hire me no matter what. So I guess that's where I took a risk. There was a company nearby that was doing CAD, computer aided design software, and they needed somebody with tech support with either a construction or architecture background. And basically it's tech support. So that set me on my computer path. So there was the risk I took. I didn't become an architect. 3 years later, I was like, am I going to become an architect or am I going to do this computer thing? And I had that heart to heart with my wife and like, no, I'm not going to become that architect. And so that set me on my next path.
Going back now, what was the motivating factor for making those decisions? Was it practicality? Was it fear?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, compared to what my kids' options are for post high school, I sure wish I had more mentors or more counselors. Architecture was the perfect professional degree instead of going and being a carpenter. But should I have been more creative? Should I have explored other things? Yeah, maybe.
I think it's important to point out here, though, you can't go back and second guess what you did.
Exactly.
Whatever choice you make is fine. Like you knew you weren't going to go into construction as a laborer. You knew that.
Yes.
So you did follow that intuition.
Yes.
Was it motivated by fear or was it motivated by determination?
I'm a very determined person. So once I made the mind up to be an architect, everything was set for the next 3 years. But I think the one thing that would have been helpful, and hopefully things like you're doing, is giving people the permission to think. And that wasn't something as an 18-year-old. And again, I'm not faulting my parents, but I was the first one to go to college. So they didn't have that experience. Now, I mean, my kids, there's parts I'm like, I don't know if you should go to college. And it's like, well, why would you say that? But think about it. What do you want to do? Is it really worth 4 years? But I think it's just the opportunity to think.
In my case, my decisions were laid out for me. I did not have much choice, but I know that the decisions that were made for me were motivated by fear because I also was the first one. We were the first generation of our parents to go to college. Mm-hmm. And in the minds of my parents, it's like, you must go to college. But of course, they came from a different generation and, different background. And it has changed now. So this new generation, I say with my own kids, maybe you don't want to go to college.
Yeah.
Do you know what you like? Then maybe just sort of go into that direction right now. And
look for your likes, your passions, your interests more than any prescribed thing that society thinks you should be doing.
Agreed. Did you ever have fear of making the wrong choice?
No, that was one of the weird things. None of it was a fear factor. It was more of do the thing. You get assignments, you do them. And so college became that same kind of thing. Here's what you do. If anything, I was too rigid and like do
on
the
assignments. Path, right?
Yeah, it was
stuck
again
to the path.
By the
way, that is a path. And some people are like, I want to be valedictorian. I want to be salutatorian, summa cum laude. That's what I want. Yeah. And that's fine if that's what you choose. You just didn't question anything else. And you just thought, all right, this is where I'm going. I'm just going to keep walking straight. Walking straight is fine, by the way.
Yes.
But as, when you get down the path a while, you're like, well, that might have been boring. Maybe it would have been fun to take a little alternate route.
I am very thankful for all the choices I did make. At my phase now, the benefits of talking with people and looking at mentors and even the whole idea of coaches and life coaches and business coaches and whatever. It's like, getting outside opinions and input to help you.
You need other ideas that might spark ideas that your parents didn't even think of, or there are other options that they didn't know about. It's your job to go out and look at different things and say, does that interest me? When did you start thinking, wow, this is just a very straight path? Maybe I should have taken some curves.
Yeah, it's definitely now in the later part of life. One of it, I mentioned my second job. I'd been there for 13 years. And so we're here because it's comfortable. And then the second was realizing that as an employee, you're one thing away from not having a job. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. And so those were all the wake-up calls. It was like, hey, I got this great experience. I'm great with learning. I can self-started. Oh, wait, there's this whole other thing I never knew about called entrepreneurship. Maybe I should look into that.
Well, it's exciting to jump into something that you don't know how to do because there's going to be maybe a little fear, a little nervousness, a little anxiety. That just makes you feel you're alive.
And it puts, I think, ultimately the control, the choice, the determination in your own power.
I've done some episodes about following your intuition and
Mhm.
taking responsibility for the choices you make, good or bad, because
Yes.
it's all part of the learning experience. You are defining what you do like, you're defining your preferences. So I think the point of this interview is to not be afraid to maybe
Yes.
take a different path or try something different,
Yep.
because if you are in control, you can always shift directions at any time if it doesn't work out.
I totally agree. The risks that exist are real, but some of them are made up too. And you can recover so much easier in your 20s and even your 30s. And well, ultimately, all the way. Find your passion. Don't worry about taking the risk.
And you find your passion by trying things.
Exactly. You got to try something before you kind of go with the models that society has put on you, whether it's buy a house or get married and have kids and
And
the
by the
dog
way,
and all that.
that's perfectly fine as
Yeah.
well. That sort of straight and narrow path. There's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. The crazy path, it may be fun for a while and then you get tired of it and then you switch directions. So don't think you have to make a decision and stick to that.
Yes.
You take a step, see how it feels, and then you keep taking a step or you shift directions and go in a different direction. Don't worry so much, guys.
If you don't like your job and you can do something else, you deserve to just try something else.
Well, knowing your mindset and your personality as it is, and looking back on your younger self, what do you think you could have done differently if you had started earlier?
Definitely, I would have tried more things, not necessarily gone off to college with immediately something in mind. Maybe take that gap year idea and do something. Relationships matter, getting friends. Now, again, perfectly happy where I'm at. Do I regret it? No. Will I tell my children? Yes.
That was my next question. What
Yeah.
advice do you give your
Yes.
children?
Definitely, I want them to take more risks, look at more things, get out from under their parents' shadow, make their own decisions. If it's not feeling right, then go ahead and change, because again, what's the harm? But I think just telling my kids to be much more flexible. But hopefully the thing that I want to definitely do is be there for them for those adult conversations, in part upon them. The very, very important thing is to start setting yourself up financially. The whole idea of earned income into retirement accounts, the value of compounding interest. Skip a couple of dinners and put some money in a retirement plan as soon as you get a job, because in 40 years, you're going to be shocked on compounding interest. I'm going to make sure my kids understand budgeting. Go travel, be supportive as the parent, but also push them out to become adults.
Follow your intuition.
Yes.
Trust yourself. The earlier you learn to trust yourself in your decision making, the more secure you're going to feel. Well, Matt, this was really good information. And if anyone wants to know about digital marketing, why don't you give us some info on how to find you and a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my risk was to not be an IT person anymore and take that technical knowledge and leverage it into what's happening nowadays, which is marketing. But so much about marketing is digital now, whether that's having a website or running some paid ads or this whole thing about search engine optimization, things like that. So I just realized, hey, there's an opportunity here to take some of my background, put it together, but ultimately help people who are so confused by this. So that's what I'm doing. So I like to put all this stuff together to make it just easier for businesses to raise their awareness and get more leads. So I actually have two things: my own digital marketing agency, which is called ML2 Solutions. But a lot of people want to just figure this out themselves. So I created an entirely different brand called Digital Marketing Extreme, digitalmarketingextreme.com, to just help people do it themselves. But they need still some guidance, some direction. So I've created both those kind of brands. I have tons of YouTube videos.
What's the web address?
The agency is ml2solutions.com, and the do-it-yourself is digitalmarketingextreme.com.
Matt, I want to thank you very much for sharing this insight, sharing your story, helping me tell everybody that y'all are doing just fine. Don't worry so much. Trust your gut and have a fun, happy life, whatever it is.
Yep, glad to help. Thank you for the chance just to, chat with someone about, hey, it's okay to take some risks sometimes.
The point of this interview was to let you know that everything works out. Just make sure that you're really enjoying it along the way. If you would like to share this episode or find out more about Matt and digital marketing, check out the show notes at howtolife.com/058. If you liked this episode about supporting your life with other passions, I recommend listening to episode 54 as well, The Importance of a Creative Outlet. I also like episode 25, How to Follow Your Intuition. I love how I can cross-reference so many different shows that I've done so far. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more like that in the future. There seems to be a common theme to this adulting thing. Have you noticed? I hope that you will please join me again next Tuesday for more good instruction, inspiration, and insight. I've got a lot more good stuff coming your way. As always, please hit the 5-star rating button before you sign off, and make sure you subscribe to the How to Life podcast and the How to Life YouTube channel. I would appreciate that. Take care, everyone. Have the best week. If you're keeping up with the flow, then just keep going. If you need a break, then take a rest. You are doing a great job. It's all good. You got this.